This is gonna sound crazy, but the best thing that ever happened to me was losing everything. I feel like, for me, I'm gonna speak for myself. I feel like some of the anxiety of having things is always like losing it. I felt like I used to have so much anxiety over losing things. You know, like um I remember I used to wonder, like, like the anxiety of like, okay, gotta have a job. I cannot ever miss like a credit card payment. Gotta have a job because I gotta have this car. You know, gotta have a job because I gotta have this cell phone. I gotta have a job because I gotta have this and I gotta have that. And on my entrepreneur journey, I began losing things, losing things, losing things. It doesn't compare to the things that I've gained, but I started losing all the material things in my life. The first thing that went, I actually sold it, was my car. Thank God. I invested that money into my business at the time. But what I also did was get rid of that expense, right? So no longer had a car note, no longer had to worry about car insurance, no longer had to worry about gas. All right, cool. And then at some point, after leaving Houston, I no longer was able to afford my own place, so I stayed with family members. Um, and that's another thing that I thought that if I lost, I would just lose my mind, not being able to have my own place. You know, I did have some time where, thank God, I had a grant, and I had some time. Like just some time to myself. I still had roommates during that time, but it felt like somewhat I had my own space. And so when that went again, I had to live with family again. It was like, man, this is like the worst thing ever. Like not being able to have my own place, right? And then the next thing went. The next thing was like, okay, having money for this thing and that thing. And when the craziest part is when I still had money for those things, it was like so much anxiety about losing it. But then when I actually lost it, I noticed that the anxiety was gone. The last thing was the cell phone. Like the last material possession that I had, where there was an expense associated with me, like me living right now. And I had some anxiety over that too. But prior to that going, I realized how much anxiety I get from having a cell phone. I don't even know if I like to be that accessible. You know, I do think when I'm like near Wi-Fi, cool. But like I'm like, I don't know if I want to be that accessible. I don't know if I don't like the expectation of responding that quickly. I feel like if someone sends you an email, the expectation isn't like, oh, I have to email them back immediately. But I feel like with a text message or a phone call, it's so demanding. It's like I need to talk to you right now, and I'm not always in a space to talk, or I just need time. Or like I'm a very introspective person. I like to take my time and think about what it is that I would like to say, and a lot of times what I have to say can be long-winded, and an email where I can just fully express myself is a lot better for me. And it doesn't have that like anxiety there of like I'm being notified. And then on top of that, me having my own business, I would constantly get calls from like telemarketers or like someone who's obtained my data from some form that I filled out. I'm in a process of applying for jobs. So, there's recruiters calling me left and right. And honestly, that gives me a lot of anxiety. And I had to remind myself, because I'm at that like interesting age, right? Like this November I'll be 35. I say that with a lot of pride. I'm someone who's always looked forward to getting older. I feel as though the longer you live on this earth, it means that you've figured some things out. You've gone through, by the time you hit that age, you've gone through things. I feel like I began really going through things like the end of my 20s, like my late 20s, but then my 30s, I really started going through life. And I would say especially these last few years of me figuring out how to run a business. But it's a lot of pride now for me to be like, yo, it's more so like, it's not even like I'm turning 35. It's like, bro, I made it to 35 in my right state of mind, because the things that I've gone through, I could easily have lost my everlasting mind. I've come very close to having nervous breakdowns, just for some of the things that I've had to survive, like going through just the process of life. So like now, so previously, I would never even really necessarily celebrate birthdays. They weren't a big deal to me. But like when you are out living life, like you're truly trying, like you're really out here, testing the waters and pushing yourself and not living in a comfort zone, but like really trying at that thing that you feel like is your purpose. Like I have really been like leaning into my purpose, especially these last 2 years. So when I tell you I'm celebrating 35, I am celebrating turning 35 because it is a big deal. It's like, bro, I made it. I made it another year. Like, forget I'm turning, like, I made it to 35. Even if I were like crawling over, you know what I'm saying, the finish line, it's like, man, I made it. That's a really big deal. That's something to be celebrated. But I noticed that a lot of my anxiety of the fear of losing these different material things, once they were gone, the anxiety was gone too. And it's kind of going back to what me talking about my age. You know, you get a certain age, you're not supposed to talk about your age because you're getting older. I'm about to turn 35 years old in November, and that is such a blessing. So I'm at this interesting age where I knew of a time that, you know, my maybe younger generations, I knew of a time before social media and before everyone had cell phones. You know, like I was kind of like one that like .com is like 90s, right? And I'm born in 90, right? The end of 90, but 90 nevertheless. Where, you know, I think I was like in maybe like high school. And it's still like some people, I didn't have, like I had a cell phone at some point, but then I lost it. And then I don't think I got a cell phone again for a while. But I had to remind myself, I was like, there was a time period where like we didn't have cell phones. Or like some of my friends had cell phones. Like I remember the Razor was like all the rage. I remember one of my teammates back in the day had the Razor, and I remember there was like the whole thing about like the smallest cell phone made that it's AT&T now, but I feel like I forgot what it was called, like Singular. It was called Singular back then. And but still, it was like a thing to have a cell phone. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like every single person had a cell phone. And I had to remind myself there was a time period that I actually know where like I didn't have a cell phone, you know, and I lived life just fine. There was a time period where I didn't have a car and I lived life just fine. And I think that let me speak for myself. I think that I've never been a materialistic person, but I think I've maybe overvalued the value of material things. And I think the beautiful thing about losing material things is it like really opens your eyes to like what's actually important. Like what is that thing that's actually getting me through this? Walking in my purpose, being conscious of my character, doing the best that I can every single day. Now, this is something that I'll say for myself. I've always been really hard on myself. And I want to add a little bit more context there. Not in a way to put yourself down, because I don't think that that's helpful in any way. Let me add this, I'm also my biggest cheerleader. Like I challenge myself the most, but I'm also my biggest cheerleader. That's why other people's opinion of me or other people's congratulations of me, it usually doesn't penetrate that much, you know, like, or titles that I've been given and awards that I've gotten. Unless it was something that for me was a big deal, it's really not that big of a deal to me. So it keeps me level on the one hand, but also I'm someone who always like pushes myself. I always want to be the best at anything I attempt. You know, whether it's a sport, whether it's a class, whether it's like starting a business, I always want to be my absolute best. And in some of those times, in me wanting to be my best, I end up being the best in that particular category. But that's never my aim. I never, even when I was playing basketball, I remember when I went out for the basketball team when I was in seventh grade, you would not have known that I made the team. I remember everybody celebrating. You go, you see your numbers, and I'm just like very even kill. And my teammates are like, "Did you not make the team?" I was like, "Yeah, I expected to make the team." Like I expected to make the team. My aim is like I want to start, or you know what I mean. Like I always have my own personal goals that usually like is the bar is high. I always set the bar really high for myself, but I'm always only competing with myself. I remember when I would be playing basketball, or if, I would always like step away from my teammates because I need to be able to hear what my coach is saying. I need to be able to pay attention, and I can't concentrate with a bunch of people talking. I used to do the same thing when I was in class. I remember my teacher would allow me to sit across from the class because I can't, like, I want to be able to focus and listen. And it was my desk. I remember that my teacher, I don't even know if he would let other people sit there. He would call that like my desk, and it would be like across from the rest of the class. Because I can't stand if someone's talking and preventing me from hearing what the teacher has to say, because I want to hold on to every single word the teacher is saying. I need to hear this. I don't want any distractions. I love to learn. I'm a student of life. I love to learn. That is like my favorite thing ever. I love learning new skills. I love learning. And so I've always just like pushed myself. And I'll say that this is the biggest challenge that I've ever gone through. It's taken me the longest to like kind of like figure out and master. I've hit my head. I've bumped my head a bunch of times. I've gotten things wrong a lot of times. I've had to learn a lot of things. I think one of the bigger things that I think honestly, if I would look at like the skill set that I had to grow a lot in this role of starting my own business, has been like my people skills. I think that I am at my core a very kind-hearted, polite person, but I'm not really great at socializing. And I've learned that if I'm forced to socialize beyond my capacity, I can easily come off as not so nice. And I've wrestled back and forth with whether to work on socializing more, or just positioning myself, putting myself in positions where, maybe that's not something I have to do on a regular basis. I think it's a good skill to have. Like, I should be able to go and speak, but that's nothing I desire to do. And the irony is, I was always really good at public speaking. Because for me, we're not having a conversation right now. I'm honestly talking at you. Like we're not having a conversation. I'm just talking to you. And I do that really well and really easily. Also very good at motivational speaking as well. I was always the person on the team that's like motivating my teammates, clapping for my teammates, cheering my teammates on. It's very natural, very organic. I always like to see other people win. I love seeing other people win. I love that. I love seeing other people win, especially if you're on my team. But I like to see people win in general. But if you're on my team, I love it. Every single time my teammate scores a basket, we scored a basket, or like the coach does the coach thing, and you have some coaches who coach by motivating, and you have some coaches that coach by pointing out every single thing that you're doing wrong. And what I always like to do was kind of like be that balance. Like, I know that our coach is really tough on us, so if I see my teammate like hanging their head, like, hey, you got this, what I'm saying, you got this. And I always ended up being in a position of leadership without asking to be. I'm more of a lead by example type of person. I don't like to tell other people what to do. If by you watching me somehow it helps you figure out something you want to figure out, that's cool. But I'm a big advocate on, like, I don't like to tell people how to live their lives. I'll let people figure it out on their own. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like to be given that grace to just figure it out and not be told what to do. But if I seek guidance from someone, then I'm actively asking for advice, and I try to do and be the same thing. This has been quite a year. I think September of last year is when I moved back to Atlanta. So it was either like September or October, maybe even close to November. I don't know. But it's coming up on a year since I've moved back to Atlanta, and this has been quite a year. This has been quite a year. A lot of learning, a lot of pivoting. I think that's like the best way to put it. Like a lot of pivoting. But I wanted to start just like recording my experience. I still feel very strong about the fact that I am at some point going to become a wildly successful serial tech billionaire. Like, call me delusional. Call me delusional, but like I really feel that with my heart, my spirit, my mind. And the difference is, I think now, is I've been putting in the work. I think it's a little bit different when you're just like praying that things happen, and you're praying for a miracle literally because you don't know how you're gonna get there, versus having a plan and working hard every single day, and that anchoring your prayer. It gives you some sort of confidence that this will in fact come to fruition at some point. And so I just want to start recording my journey to become a wildly successful serial tech billionaire. I really believe that with my mind, my spirit, my soul, everything. And I don't think I would appreciate this without the challenge of the journey that I've been through. They say life is a journey. It's really about the journey. And it has really made me a better man, a better human. I've learned so many. The craziest thing is I feel like I've learned way more life lessons than anything else. I've learned a lot of life lessons, just how to be a better human. How to be a better human. Learning from mistakes. I think that's what we learn. Like, I'm gonna speak for myself. Where I learned the most is actually from the mistakes, not the success. And when you make the mistakes and then you finally have the success, it just makes the success so much sweeter. So, yeah, I'm recording my journey of me becoming a serial tech billionaire, one day at a time, one discipline at a time, one task at a time, one plan